Hello everyone, Mrhappy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mrhappy, aka Mrhappy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. So I decided I didn't really want to use the green screen for this episode, although I still have my box lights on. I was going to put it more towards the side over here, but there's a certain cat sitting right next to me who's literally just laying in the spot where I normally store my green screen when I don't want to take it all the way down, but I just want it off to the side. So it's about half of it's there, and at least you can see my shelves on the other half. But just wanted you to be aware. I know that looks stupid behind me, and I agree. It definitely looks stupid. Thank you, cat. But anyway, it's been an interesting week for me. I took a little break from RPGs and did something a little unusual and played Cuphead, and I'm almost done with all the achievements in it. And I'm going to be doing a separate video with my thoughts on that game. TLDR, I don't think it's worth 20 bucks, but I do think it's really good. I'd say it's probably close to like a $15 game. Especially if you're not planning on playing through on Expert or something like that, which I wouldn't be surprised if people rage the hell out trying to play Expert. But it's been a fun game, and it's reminded me that I like playing games that are masochistically difficult, and that I probably should have played Crash Bandicoot when it came out, because I really enjoy platformers and games like that. But anyway, I've also been playing Divinity Original Sin 2, and this coming week we have Battle Chasers, which is an RPG that I've been very patiently waiting for, and I'm already 40% through it because I got to play the early access version, but that just means I'll be able to finish it this week before 4.1 itself actually comes out on the 10th. I suspect some of these questions are going to have to do with stuff from the live letters, so what do you say we just get to the questions so I can do some Twitch questions at the end as well? Alright, question number 1. I don't think I ever gave you a bonus, so here's a real-life Makote to massage your neck. I'll just say thanks. As for the question, I'm having a discussion with my free company mates that Square Enix should create a CGI movie to 14 to expand the lore, draw in more Final Fantasy fans, and new players make more money. What do you think? I don't know. I don't feel like Kingsglaive really did that. I feel like the people who went to see Kingsglaive were people who already intended on buying the game, and they were told it's this story, and they were already interested in it. No one was like, oh, what's that Kingsglaive thing? Oh, now I want to buy Final Fantasy 15. I shouldn't say no one, but no, I'd say that outside of the lore book, I'd like to keep most of those kind of stories and stuff true to the game itself, and I'd want them in the game itself when it comes to Final Fantasy 14. You know, it's not a one and done purchase. It is a monthly subscription, so something like that I feel like really belongs in the game. And if they're going to do any story, it'd probably be the story of 1.0. I'd say that's probably the most likely one to do. And that's something that if anything belongs in the game, in 2.0, it's like a full CGI movie of 1.0 at some point. So I don't think they should do something like that. I feel like the trailers and everything that they do for each expansion, that's enough. They don't need a full-blown CGI movie just for that. And especially not a live-action movie, because that Louis Swat commercial is hard to look at. Alright, number 2. Hey, Haps, a long-time viewer, but I've never posted any questions. I see that. This says this is your first post. So here's a bonus of all the Lala ankle biters nibbling away at the ankles of those who want Blitzball. I always see the Blitzball bonuses, and the ones like this are the ones that make me smile, both outside and inside. That's why my name is Mrhappy. Question I have for you is a small opinion question. Do you think it was good for Square Enix to involve the community in the gear design contest that ended up being the Creation Tome Gear, the Tank Contest, the next Dungeon Gear, Healer Contest, and who knows what for the Caster Gear? I think that community-based contests like that are fantastic, and I'm glad that they're opening up the idea to doing that. You know, some concern is that maybe you think, oh, maybe they're running out of ideas for designs. I think it's more just, you need community-based events like that, things that actually have a reach and have something that gets to be real in the game. You know, so many people have, including myself, you know, you think, oh man, wouldn't it be cool if there's a gear set like this, or wouldn't it be cool if there was a boss like this? And when a game is willing to reach out to its community and integrate its community into the game, you know that that thing is because the community made it happen. And that, I feel, is a very positive thing for the community and for the sense of community. Now, whether or not you like the armor sets is, of course, up to personal opinion. I myself don't care for glamour much at all, but I appreciate the effort, even if I may not necessarily always agree with the winning picks. And also, you said here, additionally, do you think they should have involved the community in voting for the winners? Yes, that I definitely... They didn't? I don't care about glamour, so I didn't know that. So they should. I do think they should. Alright, number 3. Hey there, Haps. Hope your day is going swell. It's going great. I can't do the rolling R with the word great, so I'm not Tony. Been a while since I asked a question, but I have a bonus being able to take on the next hardcore fight, the Agent of Inquiry Ultimate. That's Godbert and Julian at the same time. I'm just saying. To start, I'm at a loss. I've been doing Omega Savage since its release and kept up when the loot drops between V1 Savage and V2 Savage. It's nearly impossible to find a group to clear V3 Savage. With no luck in finding a static and making my own going less than desirable, it seems nearly impossible at this point to clear the fight with pugs. I don't know where, I guess I don't really know what your luck is looking like, because I cleared V3 Savage for weeks and weeks and weeks in pugs. And I had some that were definitely not great, but I had a lot that went really well. So the fact that you don't have to clear might be the only reason you're seeing this kind of issue. I would look for groups that are clear groups that don't explicitly say no first time bonus, which I actually do see plenty of on the NA side of things on Ether. They pretty much do. You probably need to join the ones that are like no, like 3 screw ups and you're out kind of groups, because those aren't necessarily no first time bonus groups. Because it sounds like you might know it pretty well. And seeing the enrage and having no luck in the clear. So I take a break till 4.1. I absolutely love the fight and the design. I have lost its luster out of frustration. I want to move on to V4 Savage and lose what bit of sanity I have left. Question is, there going to be a better chance to finally get this fight clear with increasing gear? I mean, it helps, but it still comes down to you got to find people that are competent. You know, if you can get it to 1%, then it's just a matter of grinding it out until you find that one group that gets it. And after you get the first clear, every week you probably won't have too much of an issue. V4 Savage even is going to feel a lot the same. Getting past X-Death, getting past the first black hole is going to be incredibly frustrating. But when you do finally find that group that does it, it's going to be great. So I wouldn't encourage giving up. You only have 9 days till 4.1 at this point anyway. So really, you're taking a week off before a major patch is not a bad idea, especially because you could get into Shinryu and then I'd maybe just get something a little bit less familiar and less frustrating immediately off the bat. But it's just going to come down to when you find the fight, you find the fight. That's it. That's all you got to do. You know, you just got to keep looking for that one group. All right, number 4. Good evening, Hap. Since this is my first question ever, you get a bonus of plus 100 bonus to rolls against players wearing yokai watches. I got my body piece now. It's fine. Okay, I have a couple of questions, one short, one long. As someone who's never had more than 300k to his name, what's the best place to start massing a fortune? So I actually do it in probably the slowest way possible, and a lot of my methods have since become, I guess, not as efficient because of the state of desynthesis in Stormblood. But I did desynthesis. You know, I invested a little bit of money in, and then I also did maps. You know, every time I go live and I have maps and I want to do maps, I ask the stream, hey, does anyone want to do maps? And I have 127 mil and I don't touch crafting and I really don't make much Gil-Off Gathering other than getting that map. So it's really where it's all been. It was a very slow grind. It took me months and months and months and months and months to make that much, when someone who's an experienced crafter could make that in, you know, a day or two, realistically, if they're willing to put the time in. You know, maybe that's a little bit of a stretch, maybe like a week or something. But that being said, that's how I slowly amassed a fortune, and now I kind of play it safe with the money. It's so easy to get materia, and crafting recipes haven't been too overly expensive, so I've managed to hover around that 130 mil-ish mark. I think I had 137, now I have 127 since the beginning of Stormblood, and I'm planning on keeping it that way for a while. 2, I've historically played Do in MMOs. I'm assuming you mean DPS, and I've become proficient with that, but D-O? I'm wondering if you mean D-O. Quickly, yeah, no, you're talking about DPS queues. I guess you're on your phone or something, and it changed DPS to Do. I played Do in MMOs. Okay. DPS queues right now are killing my progression. I haven't done tanking or healing in endgame. Is it reasonable for me to pick up a tank or healer and launch an endgame content without any previous experience? I mean, there's no better way to get experience than to just do it. That's it. I mean, not DPS it. Maybe I should say just DPS it instead of just do it. Yeah, there's no better way to get experience than to just try and be open to advice and research and stuff like that. I don't think the learning curve is that steep for anyone but healers. I think the expectation of healers in raids, just getting the healing done is fine, but what players realistically have expectation-wise of healers is considerably higher than the expectations of DPS and tanks. So I'd say that if you're looking for a role that still has expectations because your responsibility level is high, but isn't really that steep of a learning curve, probably tanking if you're going to be looking into that. All right, number 5. Hello, mister. It's been a while since I've asked anything. I trust you are well. I am doing well. Hopefully you're doing well as well. So well. Are you still playing Record Keeper? I haven't had time. Since Stormblood came out, I've kind of just stopped playing it altogether. I've been trying to divulge time into things like, you know, Final Fantasy 12 came out. We got Battle Chasers this week. Cuphead is a little bit of a different than what I normally do, but I'm enjoying playing through that. You know, Divinity, RPGs in general, and, you know, betas and sponsored stuff and whatnot. I just haven't taken the time to play any mobile games, really. The next mobile game I play will probably be the Pocket Edition for Final Fantasy 15, although I do want to check out the Mobile Lineage 2 that seems to be coming out out soon. I actually got a setup where this is an NVIDIA Shield. I actually am going to be able to stream from this. I have a mini HDMI to HDMI setup, and so I'll be playing Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition here, but that's not really a mobile game. It's a mobile game, it's just that it's like a full-blown mobile game, not one of like the free-to-play mobile games like Record Keeper. So no, I didn't do the 30th anniversary draw or any of that stuff recently. And P.S. I need a career change. Are you hiring? I don't think so. I don't think I'm hiring. I ain't got that kind of money. I wish I did, because we actually do have a maid service that comes in like once a month, and maid services are cheaper than I thought they were. I thought that was going to be expensive as hell. They're like, it's like whatever, once a month to clean the whole house or to clean the whole apartment, and it's like not even that much money. So I've been doing that instead. And to assume I have dry cleaning, I wear t-shirts every day. What do I dry clean? At the very least. So feels bad, man, not hiring. All right, number 6. Happy? Doing all right? No bonus. I've been with you forever. You have this piece of toast instead. Toast. I love toast. Question: who would win in a fight? Cash Me Outside Girl or Whoa Vicky? I don't know what that means. I'm not hip with the memes. Whoa Vicky is just imagines me with Crash Bandicoot, but instead of Crash Bandicoot, it's Coco saying whoa, whoa, whoa. A serious question: what are some pop culture puns, references, and allusions that have stuck out to you the most in 14? I mean, there's so many. Like, I miss a lot of pop culture stuff. Like, for example, people have been quoting the shit out of Rick and Morty. I don't watch Rick and Morty. I don't know what you're talking about, so stop it. Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's so many modern ones that I don't get, but then there's a million that I do. So that's hard, man. I always liked Wake Me Up Before You Ogamoro from back at the Kobold Quest, and all the Ifrit ones, of course. You know, Ifrit bleeds, kill it. You know, all those basic stuffs. So yeah, I mean, I don't think I could pick just one. I Just Died in 6 Arms Tonight is another good one. There's all the serious ones, you know, Serious Business, Why So Serious, you know, there's so many. I don't think I could just pick 1 or 2 or anything. There's so many. All right, number 7. Hey, guy. Stop calling me guy. Does running a duty unsynced affect the RNG chance of getting mounts? No, it doesn't have any RNG. The only thing that can affect the RNG of getting the music sheets is running minimum item level. Now, keep in mind, if you're doing unsynced, you don't get well, here's the thing, you don't get a loot chest. So I should have been more clear. When you do unsynced, you don't get loot chests, period. But anything that drops directly from enemies, you do get access to. Or is that not right? No, it's you don't get any loot from the boss itself, but you get the chest. Yeah, okay, I did that backwards. Any loot that directly drops from the enemies, you don't get in unsynced, but the chest is fine. The loot chance doesn't change at all. It's still the exact same loot chances as it always was. And when you're minimum item level, certain fights have higher chances of dropping orchestrion rolls. Like if you go do turn 13 minimum item level, you get like 5 or 6 orchestrion rolls, and it's crazy. But no, other than that, there's no sort of change in the RNG that it affects at all. All right, number 8. Hey, Happy. By the time you're answering this, we'll have already seen the live letter and all. My question is, what was your favorite reveal, additional bit of info we got, and how's 4.1 looking in your mind compared to previous 0.1 patches? So I still stand by that 2.1 in terms of a raw fun factor still stands to be the best 0.1 patch, and I think I'll feel that way after 4.1 is launched as well. And that's without playing into the way that they've changed development. I'm talking about just 0.1, not 0.11, not 0.15, not 0.18. I don't care about those. I do because it's content that I want, but just comparing the pure 0.1. I still think 2.1 is looking to be the best between all the extreme primals, between Ultima, between the 3 dungeons that we got in that patch. The main story sucked in 2.1, to be fair, and Hildebrand was at least a fun introduction there. And there wasn't really too much else. I think treasure maps were introduced, which is a piece of content that I love, was introduced in 2.1. But looking at 4.1, I'd like to more directly compare it to 3.1. I feel like out of pressure to get this patch out faster, because both 2.1 and 3.1 took longer than 3.5 months to release. 2.1 was due to all the launch issues, they pushed it back a month, and 3.1 was just, they said they needed a break after developing Heavensward. 4.1, they said we're gonna get it out in 3.5 months, and I think because of that, we're seeing a lot of content that looks like it should have been in 4.1 or 4.15 be pushed back a little bit, because they're like trying to be a month ahead of schedule while developing brand new content. So it looks like the story is going to be better. You know, Shinryu looks fantastic. You know, Hildebrand, we already know it's a pretty short episode. What else am I thinking? Return to Evilise looks like already the best 24-man that we'll have. And generally on all the quality of life stuff, like, it's all great. But then I think, like, we gotta wait 2 weeks for Ultimate. We gotta wait 5 weeks for Rival Wings. Then Eureka's in 4.2 now, you know? And I just remember I just see all that and I go, man, I kind of almost wish they'd just taken the extra month and then given us everything in 4.1. Although, to be fair, I wouldn't be surprised if they held something back to 4.15. And then we got Eureka in 4.15, even if it meant waiting an extra month for 4.1. I personally have been okay with that because the presentation of it looks a lot better than the presentation of 4.1 looks now. That being said, Ultimate looks amazing. Ultimate looks amazing. Return to Evil East looks amazing. They both blew my mind as soon as I saw them. And I look forward to doing those a lot. Alright, number 9. Hello, Mr. Happy. Should be easy 2 questions this week. If you can answer with a low end, median, and top dollar answer, please and thank you. 1. What is a good gaming chair like the one you sit in? So unfortunately, I haven't sat in too many gaming chairs. This is a DX Racer, and I've loved this. Within the first week of getting this one, I fell asleep in it. I was tired was part of the reason, but it was also comfortable enough to fall asleep in. So I've really enjoyed this, but I haven't sat in any other one, so I couldn't even give you a low end, median, or top dollar. Just know that these are going to run you a few $100. And what is a great headset? Well, I've been sponsored with SteelSeries, so I'm most recently with SteelSeries headsets. Like, I've been keeping up with other headsets that are more recent and stuff. I can tell you this, don't get a Logitech G930. It's like, you're going to be like, oh, this is amazing, but why does it keep disconnecting every 10 seconds? So just avoid that one. For the SteelSeries ones, though, the Arctis 7 and the Arctis series in general has been getting a lot of very positive reviews and social media pushing and all that stuff. It's been generally well received. So since I'm already sponsored by SteelSeries, easiest thing to do, go full sellout mode. Arctis 3, Arctis 5, Arctis 7, look through them all. And hey, did you know we have a discount link for that? Not only in the Twitch channel, who was watching live, you type !SteelSeries, you get a link with a 10% discount code. And on the YouTube video, did you know that that's in under every single YouTube video? Hey! So just go look at the 3, 5, and the 7. Honestly, the Siberia 850 is also fantastic, but it's like way, way more expensive. So temper yourselves there. So Arctis 3 low end, Arctis 5 slightly more expensive, Arctis 7 kind of right in the middle, and then the Siberia 850 is like, whoa, like way top dollar out there. So keep that in mind. All right, number 10. Hey, Happy, have a good, healthy life. It's a hell of a bonus. Hey, what are some thoughts on Blizzard's WoW vs 14 from a gamer perspective? What could Blizzard learn from 14 and vice versa? As someone who's not a game developer, it's almost ignorant for me to even consider answering this. Yeah, I went to college and I'd learned some stuff in game design, but that's not the same as developing for a company and stuff like that. So I think WoW has a better idea of how it wants to design encounters and raids and bosses and build a world, whereas 14, they're really good at building the world, but it feels like because they want everything to be so disconnected, they're very afraid to take certain steps that I feel like would be clear improvements to the game. The raids all being singular instances is probably one of the biggest things that I get hit on. WoW has excellently designed both visually, story-wise. Everything about their raids is pristine. And I think that's the one thing where 14 can do some pretty good bosses, and the story behind the raid is pretty good. But the fact that it's just this disconnect there creates a pretty lackluster sense of urgency or sense of scale. And a lot of the times when you see the raid from the outside and then go in, the difference in scale also makes a pretty big difference there. So I think that's a big thing. I think also WoW is better at designing content that is of varying difficulties across greater varieties of player. Looking at Mythic Plus versus looking at the raids with their difficulties, you can tell where the majority of their development goes into. Whereas in Final Fantasy 14, you have better music, you have better graphics, you have more in-depth rotations for the jobs, a greater attention to detail and world building, and they also play on the nostalgia. Although, listen, WoW's been playing on nostalgia a lot the last 2 expansions, more so than even before then. So I feel like 14 maybe has too many developers that are focused strictly on art and world, and not enough developers in the content development side of things, whether it be figuring out how we can get the raid bosses all in one instance without it completely breaking our servers, for example, and I feel like that's really where it is. Final Fantasy 14 is also better at having lots of activities, even if not everyone does all those activities. WoW pretty much is just raid now. It's raid or PvP, and that's pretty much all you do. I mean, obviously Mythic Plus and whatnot, but like it's dungeons or raids, and then maybe a world boss if you're bored or you need the loot for the week, and it's over super quick. And I feel like Final Fantasy 14's got a lot more activities. They're just very shallow, so it doesn't even really feel like you're doing much with them. And that's the thing. WoW's got a bunch of really deep lakes, and Final Fantasy XIV's got many, many more shallow puddles. And that's probably the best way to draw the comparisons between the two. Alright, number 11. Hey, Haps, how you doing? I'm doing mostly alright. Mostly alright? Well, I'm doing mostly alright, too. Would say I'm a fairly new viewer since I watched some of your videos around the time the NDA for Stormblood Media Tour was lifted, but holy crap, that's already been a few months. Regardless, first-time massacres have a bonus of a new Patreon subscriber, but with the way Patreon works, it might not go through by the time you record this week's Mondays. It might have. I don't know. Obviously, I don't know which name you are, and I'm not going to ask you to tell me. But don't forget, we do have the. I actually might re-record the beginning of this. Nah, fuck it. We'll do the sponsors at the end. That's how I do it most weeks. It's only really last week I remembered to do it at the beginning. Anyway, question time. One kind of short, one longer. One, how do you think we will see AF3 be upgraded? Well, honestly, I'd like to see it used through Eureka, but who even knows when that'll actually be done. And even then, I don't know when they'll do it. I would also be okay with the way the augmented system worked back in 2.x. But it's either the augmented system or we eventually upgrade them through Eureka. Those are the two things that I'm expecting, I guess, the most, if anything at all. 2, I'm a tank main who feels relatively comfortable playing the role to a decent skill level and want to get into the raiding group, but have little experience with relevant Savage content. Pug01 Savage. Just, that's going to be how you get in. That's going to be how you do getting in. What any resources that would help situations like mine? I mean, not really. I mean, other than educating yourself about the fights, or maybe trying to put your name out there on, like, recruitment threads, I don't know. Well, I'm not a terrible tank. I believe I could do it. I find it hard to remember everything in a video guide or even a text guide. Well, that's because you're not going to remember them until you visually see them. You might remember them after you see them, but I feel almost everyone needs to visually see something themselves and play against it before they're 100% comfortable in doing mechanics. So I think it's just you have this fear of screwing up, and you have to understand that everyone at some point has screwed up before. In a video game, in real life, doesn't matter. People screw up. So you gotta, if somebody starts giving you shit and it's like your first time ever and you're doing, just block it out. Worry about working on your performance and not letting them bring your performance down by bringing your attitude down. If you feel comfortable that you know it and that you can do it, then my only advice to you is just do it. Also, TLDR, fairly decent tank, looking to get in the Savage. Afraid of messing up in pugs, need advice. I think you'll be more alright than you think you'll be. Alright, number 12. Hey, Haps, hope you're having a great day. I already tried this one, so I'm not going to do it. I'm having a good one. So, I'm from Germany, but I live in Seattle at the moment. At home, I played 14 on PS4, but I didn't take it with me because I was afraid the PS4 wouldn't survive the flight. Those things are pretty durable, man. I think it would have been alright. I thought I could live 1 year without 14, but it turns out I don't want to. Now I want to play the game on my laptop while I'm in the US. Therefore, I need to get a game license for PC. Do you know if there could be any problems? Because my Square Enix account is from Europe, but the game is from the US. Yeah, I was going to say, you basically came up with your own solution. Your account is a European account. There's a good chance you should probably get the digital European version of the game. Don't get the digital US version of the game, because that is almost definitely going to cause... I think your account's just straight up going to reject it if you try doing that. Because they are region-specific accounts, and if your account is European, yeah, get the European version of the game. Play it safe. That's probably your best bet. All right, number 13, It's more like bro. That's more like it. Is it just me, or are all bad players getting all the loot? Is this because of my story last week? It's just, you're up against 7 other people, and odds are the only person that's performing poorly is the person rolling against you, or they have the loot all to themselves. And they're just, I mean, remember when Square Enix made the Titan, the 16-bit Titan video, and the Dragoon dies and then wins the mount? There's a reason for that, because it always happens. It happens every fucking time. And there's nothing in the game that makes that happen. It just happens every single time. So yeah, it happens, but there's nothing you can do about it. Alright, number 14. Hi, Mr. Happy. Not a first time bonus anymore, but now I get weekly resets, so the reward is Blitzball. I'm gonna fucking find you and punch you in the face. Alright? So my question this week is all about dots and hots, more specifically how they interact with damage buffs or skill speed based stat increases. So I'll tell you right now, any stat increase you get from an ability that doesn't increase the stat on your skill sheet, I'm 99% sure that doesn't actually affect, like, for example, if you have a skill speed buff and then you put a dot up, it didn't change your actual value on your skill speed, which is why I think they've actually rewarded it all to attack speed, so that's 100% clear. I don't think there's any buff in the game now that says it increases just your skill speed or spell speed, except I'm pretty sure they moved all of those to attack speed, so that way it says attack speed is ability recast time and stuff. That way there's no confusion, so that doesn't actually work on it. However, for all other damage buffs, it snapshots whatever buffs and debuffs are on the opponent when you place a dot or hot on. So like, for example, if somebody has Convalescence and it's got 3 seconds left and you throw a regen on them and then Convalescence wears off, it's going to remember the Convalescence regen until that regen actually wears off, until you either reapply it or it wears off, I say. For enemies, so you say Trick Attack, then applying buffs, yes, dots would be getting the vulnerability. That's what it means for a snapshot in the case. The only abilities that don't get snapshotted buffs pretty much are limit breaks. They not affected by Trick Attack or, you know, Blood for Blood or any of that stuff. So yeah, it just, whatever buffs you have on and debuffs the enemy or the ally has on, as soon as you cast the ability, it snapshots that and it'll hold that value until it falls off or you overwrite it. All right, number 15. Hello, Mr. Happy, longtime follower, first time asker, so my first time bonus is none other than... How come 2 of you gave me a blitz ball? I hate... You all suck. We're not doing Mondays anymore. I don't like this show anymore. I'll finish this one, though. Anyways, on with my question. In regards to Ultimate Coil, which fight mechanic are you looking forward to the rehash the most? Twintanya. Twintanya was just... The drama around Twintanya for the 2 months before it finally got beaten, and then nerfed, and then beaten by everyone else. It was just a shit show, man. Between the divot on the hand and, you know, mechanics that didn't work and the fight being taken down for 2 weeks, and it's just, it was awful. I just want that fight to get some redemption, and considering it's the first phase, I'm pretty happy that the redemption phase is right at the beginning. All right, number 16. Yo, Haps, first time askers with a bonus of playtesting the Icarus Ire Ultimate. Oh, Copper Bell. Anyway, my question is in regards to finding raid groups as an amateur raider. Okay, this might be a lot like the other question that I had, so let me read this. I got around killing Owen Savage, Ultimate Coil. I really want to get out and find a new group. My old group is mostly made up of friends, and this is starting the game. I have somewhat of a hardcore mentality when it comes to raiding. Always open to learning and doing my absolute best. How can I find serious groups to raid with? Many people won't take my attitude seriously and only care about FF logs. Well, I mean, your attitude, your want-to-win attitude sounds a lot like an FF logs experience raid kills. But you're saying you don't have those things, but you want to be hardcore. I mean, a lot of the times it comes down to just pugging to get experience and exposure. If you're performing really well in pugs, people start to remember you week after week. If you're pugging the same times every week as other people, they start to remember you. You start to have opportunities kind of arise for you. And if you're able to get through these pugs with decent DPS or no deaths and you have recordings of it, that starts to be your ammo for actually getting recruited into a real raid team. Now, keep in mind, if it's your first raid team other than the one with your friends, you're probably going to end up in ones that aren't like-minded as you at first. But if you then take those and with the experience you get, eventually those kind of raid groups just kind of split and everyone goes to try to find people that are like-minded. Then you eventually find your way up the ladder. I've seen some people do the climb this way, mostly through pugs. And it sucks to have to pug and it's hours and hours of frustration. But it's also pretty cool because then you have something to do for a lot of days out of the week as opposed to me, who I'm done raiding in a day or two. So that's one of the advantages. That's what it is. I think that's your best bet is to pug and make a name for yourself. All right, number 17. Yo, Haps, you know what time it is? I'll tell you, it's recycling time with 4.1 about Idalise and Shake It Off. I'm gonna go. See, I've talked about 4.1. Shake It Off, I haven't talked about at all. The new Shake It Off. So. Is this going to be what it is? Because this should have been after the live letter. Oh, no, this is before the live letter. I have no problem with this skill. What's wrong with me? Let me tell you. Do you have no problem with it because you've never used it? Yeah, that's the problem most people have. Wow, I've never used this skill. How can I have a problem with it? Thinking emoji. Thinking. I wonder if the problem is I've never used it. Oh, no, I used it when the healer forgot to take Asuna in 04 normal. I used it on a Malboro and a Fate once. That was great. Yeah, that's the problem. Luckily, the new version looks like it's going to be OP as hell. So trust me, you'll be using it a lot more. All right, number 18. Hey, Mr. Happy, final sim here. Welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, the weekly Q&A show where we ask you questions and you answer them. I was watching your recent live letter video and you talked about the item level requirement of Ultimate Coil. I heard you say that the tanks prefer to use 320 accessories rather than 341s. Why is that? A pretty basic question. So the 320 accessories are able to be melded, and because with tanks, direct hit scales incredibly well on them. It's a linear scaling stat. They have none of it available on their gear, so it's something they can meld on literally every piece. So they get that one strength meld. You know, they would have had the strength meld on the 340 pieces, but then they can do one direct hit. Their second meld, which is a forbidden meld on the 320 accessories, gets to be a direct hit 6 meld and then 3 direct hit 5 melds. And with all of those, the amount of increased damage that they deal is pretty high. Even if you were to take out the factor of direct hit and maybe run something like tenacity, which not many people do. I've seen some tenacity, but everyone goes with the direct hit. It's a huge difference. One of the biggest things is that the difference between a 320 accessory and a 340 accessory is only 2 strength, which is really easy to outweigh with pentamelds, as opposed to something like 4 strength or 5 strength, where it starts to get a little questionable. So it's a factor of all of these and just how well direct hit scales for tanks. It's incredible. All right, number 19. Happy howdy, Mr. Happy. Oh, I know who this is. Commenting on last week that I forgot to post a question for. Last week, someone had a question on Ultimate Weapon. If I remember correctly, Labrea specifically stated that the core, the heart of Sppyyke, the Allagans did not understand and was older than Allagan civilization, implied that Allag built the rest of the Ultimate Weapon, possibly with the guidance from the Paragons. Also, the Lupin, to me, seemed to have the same amount of model diversity as any other beast stripe race and not as a player race. Also, when the next player race likely be introduced with a new NPC in the ladder in the 4.x series as the new Ygir. They don't have to do that. We only have one example, so I don't know. I still feel like the Lupin are a higher chance than a lot of the other stuff that we've been seeing. Question for the Mr. Happy Roulette this week. Let's see. 2.0 spoiler, area question, future past, future. I'm going to go with area question. So the underwater bubbles from the Ruby Sea, what causes them to exist? Is it buried Allagan or older technology? So it's not any of that. Oh, they actually explain this, and Ethis actually had a discussion with me about this because I asked him the same question. I think my Twitch chat probably knows since I'm live right now. It's explained, and I really, for the life of me, can't remember. Although it feels really good to have my eyes closed right now and rubbing my head. It's like I'm giving myself a massage. It feels really good, man. Oh, man. I'm going to let my Twitch chat hang out for a second, see if they remember, because the answer is there. I just don't know it. I mean, I could also just tell you to go ask Ethis, because he will definitely have an answer to this question. And I don't know. And my Twitch chat's not telling me either, so I'm just going to say ask Ethis. Alright, and the last question here on the forums at the very least. Hello, Mr. Happy. How are you? Longtime follower, watcher, first-time askers. I have a bonus of perfectly cooked, full English breakfast. Bacon, eggs, sausage, tomato, mushrooms, beans. I don't want beans on toast, man. I'm not a fan of that idea. I've seen... Listen, you enjoy it. I'm going to stay away from your beans on toast. I don't want that. I've bacon, eggs. Where's the... I mean, I'll take the toast. I just don't want the beans. My question, which hopefully hasn't been asked yet. I noted in your 4.1 patch breakdown that allied seals are gone. Do you recommend saving them in case we can convert them? So what was really weird is it disappeared from the list. I'd hope we can convert them, because that would be really shitty if you couldn't. But, I mean, it's not like I can do anything. I could spend them now, or I could hope they convert them. Either way, I guess it doesn't really matter. So, I'm going to say fingers crossed that we can. But I don't recall them ever making a specific comment about it. So, grain of salt on that one? Tentative? Fingers crossed? One of those applies. That's the best answer I got. Anyway, that's the last question from the forums. Now I'm going to take some questions from the Twitch chat itself. We had a lot of really short questions this week, so Twitch chat, ask away. Alright, so the first question we have here comes from our good old buddy Pharos. So, Mr. Happy, Final Fantasy XI Mobile. Any recent news and any thoughts? I haven't heard much about it in a while. So no one's heard much about it in a while. Nexon put it on their list of things that is still planned to be done, but there's been, like, no progress on it compared to Grandmasters, which has been out for, like, 2 years now. Thoughts, though, I mean, it can't play the same as regular 11, right? It's on a mobile device. It's, as far as we know, it doesn't have a monetization plan yet, which is one reason why it's probably taken them a really long time to make it. But all we know is it's going to go up to Chains of Promethea at launch, and after that, they're going to keep developing content. I don't know what to expect from it, man. Is it going to be like modern 11? Is it going to be like old 11? You know, there's so many questions, and the only screenshots we have of it make it look like there's things like you know, like a stamina system like some of the other mobile games have, and they were in I almost said Limsa. They were in Sandoria, and I couldn't tell anything, man. There was no combat pictures or anything, so it is. I don't know, man. I'm hoping to hear something about it, because now I have a means of streaming it with the Shield, like I mentioned earlier, and it's like that's the only thing that's really going to get me to play anything even remotely like old school 11 again. So it's a waiting game at this point. We don't have much. All right, so the next question we have is from Kinslayer. When you started streaming on Twitch, did you have to work out a schedule with other popular streamers, or did you wedge your way in? So that's actually something that someone asked me similarly a few weeks ago. A lot of times people ask for advice on streaming, and when people ask about that, it's kind of weird because there's so many generic answers to that question where it's like, oh, you know, make sure you're consistent and make sure, you know, community first. And it's like everyone says that, and it's like, yeah, it's technically correct, but you know, you also can't promise someone success. You know, where is the advice that's telling them, hey, this is how you're going to grow your community, this is how you're going to grow your channel. Yeah, you can tell them treat every viewer like a friend or whatever, and it's all correct, but it's just not an answer in my opinion. One of the big things I always say is your schedule needs to, you don't really work it out with other people. So the answer to that first part is no. You just kind of look for a time that A, works for you, and B, isn't overlapping every other person in the directory for the games you want to play. Even if you're trying to do variety, that's really the toughest one, because you almost have to change your schedule on a per game basis based on what other people are doing. And then you end up getting fucked until you have a consistent enough viewer base where you'll probably make a consistent schedule. But I guess the general answer to your specific question is you do kind of just wedge your way in and look for a time slot that's not being dominated. And then you have to put on a good show and keep people coming back and do all those other things that are generally considered generic advice. But the timing is very, very important to make sure that you're not going up against the people who hog all the viewers, even if it's not really hogging, but they're the ones who have the most. And that's big for growth, in my opinion. All right, the next question. We've got some really good questions this week. Mrhappy, what do you think are the chances of a more dynamic, morphable battle area for Trials going forward? We've had simple stuff like Titan's shrinking arena or stage transitions like Shinryu. What about stuff constantly moving or shifting in elevations? You'll have to consider breaking individual squares on Shinryu's platform as well. And looking at even like Bismarck's, it's a very small arena, but the idea is that you're supposed to be kind of protecting it from being destroyed. I think the problem with morphable arenas or arenas that aren't always 100% consistent is that you run the risk of people finding abuse tactics, which we can even just go all the way back to Twintania to see abuse tactics on that one. But I feel like there are ways to do verticality and moving platforms that aren't random and aren't abusable per se, but they really need to come up with the idea themselves. So I think the answer is yes. I don't know that we'll see them, you know. I just think of all the abuse cases that I've seen in like kiting mobs and stuff like that when arenas aren't set in one way. But you know what, that makes those fights memorable, and even if they are a little abusable, you know, there's always ways to combat that you can always patch in later, which is never a great answer. But I'd like to see more morphable battle arenas, even if they're still circles or squares. I'd like to see them do more interesting things with circles and squares. All right, so the last question I'm going to take is I'm just looking for a question to wrap up on. So as pertaining to Return to Ivalice, how do you feel yourself and the community will feel if things mentioned come to pass, like Bagamnon trying to kidnap Alma, and we actually help Rams, or who do you think will be fighting in the future dungeon? So basically, give me a prediction set on Return to Ivalice. So right now, what I'm looking for Return to Ivalice, and I plan to make a video on this after I've confirmed the actual event. So expect a lore video on this sometime right after 4.1's launch. From what I can see, it looks like we're going to Rabanastre because the Garlanes are attacking. And if I had to take a guess, the ultimate prize there is the white Orosite that has the symbol of Tauros on it. The symbol of Tauros, I said Tauros, this isn't Pokemon. The symbol of Tauros is the symbol of Chaos, one of the Espers in Ivalice, and one of the most powerful Espers in Ivalice. And considering we see Hashmal, we see Mateus, and some people think that the final boss is actually an old tactics version of Shemhazai, which is entirely possible. We actually only see 3 confirmed bosses in the trailer itself, because Bagamnon is shown in a cutscene kidnapping who I'm presuming to be Alma. So it looks like his ultimate goal might have been to take the Orosite and actually deliver it to whoever it is who's running the show for him. I doubt he's the main bad guy. He wasn't the main bad guy before. And what's probably going to happen is the second dungeon, I'd imagine, is going to be the Necro Hall of Nabudis, which is where Chaos himself actually resides. And that it's a possibility. It depends on if they're trying to go with the 12 storyline on this one, if they're trying to go more tacticsy. Because there are places they can go with the Taurus White Orosite from Tactics that isn't Nabudis that could have similar effects to that one. But something along those lines. And I'd imagine that Bagamnon's probably going to become a Lucavi. If you've played Final Fantasy Tactics, you probably know what that means. And he's probably going to be a boss in the second dungeon as opposed to a boss in the first instance of Return to Ivalice. I think it's going to end in with probably the High Seraph. I guess it depends on which version of Ultima they use. They could do Ultima or whatever it is. But I have a feeling by the end of the third one, whether it's in Giraffeswillrule or it's in another place from the Tactics universe itself, we're probably going to be dealing with most of the Espers from Ivalice itself, with ending with Ultima or Ultima, whatever name they decide to go with. I'd like to believe, since they seem to be going very heavy on 12 references, even though they have a good mix of Tactics and like obviously you have Ramza, Alma, you know, you have Delita, but then you also have Bagamnon and Rabanaster and the models from Final Fantasy 12. Zodiac Age for Hashmal and Mateus, and it's hard to tell exactly which direction they're planning on taking it more, the Tactics one or the 12 one, even though they've said in the past that it's going to be the Tactics one. So there's a lot of options, but I think that's going to be the general flow of the story, is dealing with the majority of the Espers with the white Auracite for Taurus, and eventually the Auracite with the symbol that Ultima has, which I forget off the top of my head right now, are going to be playing key roles as we go through all of the 24-man raids for this one. So expect a lot of nostalgia for both 12 and Tactics fans, especially after seeing that last one. If you haven't played Tactics, I would recommend you do so perhaps after playing Return to Ivalice. I'm actually going to probably play through it once things calm down a little bit. We got a big game season for RPGs, especially in the next 4 or 5 months, so I'd like to get to Tactics before 4.3 at the very least. But anyway, I am going to wrap up on that question. Those are kind of where my predictions lie, so thank you everyone for asking your questions for this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. As we do every week, though, we do have to thank our sponsors, those people who have been supporting us over on Patreon, to counteract hashtag demonetized. So anyway, for the Mondays with Mr. Happy sponsors, we actually have a few names that have been added onto the list. So let's start with the standard ones: MrSynestrrr, Argoti, Fafarian, Rendil, Giraffeswillrule, and Stevie-Rex for our standard sponsors. For our elite sponsors, we have Kira, we have Ignis Fairgun from Diabolos, we have Goetia, Valefar of Siren, Jean-Francois from, I've tried to say from a server, just Jean-Francois. Themacholuis, Hersh, Fersh of Faerie, Phoenix Down Free Company on Goblin, Serren from Zodiark, Rinoet, let me make sure I got that name right. Rinoet, let me just make sure, yep, Rinoet, Chikara, and then that's for the elites. And then for the premiums, we have Obaidel Shamsi. They bumped themselves up to premium. We got Sppyyke, who's new on the premium factor. We got Rudy Rudiger, Nadien, TinColossus, Khuja Cross, Ahmed, Kurenai, Oni, Abdullah, Killerhackman, Raul Jr, Darklight, Arthur Ramil Gaming, and Kiltastic Jones. Let me just make sure. I think Valestra of Famfrit was also an elite one that I missed. I noticed I had added their name to the State of the Realm sponsors, but they hadn't properly been added to the Mondays with Mr. Happy sponsors. So, oh no, I did say their name. Did I not say their name? I think I just skipped their name earlier because it is there. Valestra of Famfrit. I almost skipped your name. I actually did have it in the right spot. So I'm glad I backtracked and double checked on that one. Sorry for that, but good thing I didn't miss you overall. Anyway, those are our sponsors. If you want to check those out, then check out the Patreon link under the YouTube video. On Twitch, there should be an ! Patreon as well, but I don't really use this to counteract Twitch. It's really just for hashtag demonetized over on YouTube. But that's going to be a wrap for this week. If you want to ask your questions for next week, either be here in the Twitch chat on Sunday at 12:30ish Pacific Standard Time, or ask it in the forum thread under the YouTube video. Those will be the two places to go look. But on that note, I'm going to hang out with my Twitch chat for a few more minutes. Thank you for your resubs that we had during the actual recording. So thank you for watching this week. I will see all of you fine, ladies and gentlemen, for next week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. And of course, take care.